Unfortunately, our season did not end the way we wanted it to. We lose in the Super Bowl 41-38 in the final few seconds of the game. If you did not watch that video, I highly suggest going back and watching at least the final quarter. It was an incredibly fun back and forth game. Unfortunately, though, we did not come out on top. On the bright side, though, most of this team is relatively young. We also had the #1 offense in the league. Just ignore that we had the number 32 defense. I think most of that was due to yardage because our defensive points per game was only number 20. Not great, but not exactly, bottom of the league. We do get a brand new contract following the season of 3 years for $5 million. I am curious if our offensive coordinator is going to leave this season. I don't know if they can actually be poached to go be head coaches or coordinators elsewhere. I don't think I've ever encountered losing a coordinator in this game besides firing them, but I guess we'll find that out here in a minute. Our franchise quarterback Nick Samuel really had a breakout season. Last year he didn't play bad, but this year he played really well. Almost 5,000 passing yards, 41 touchdowns compared to 28. Did throw one more interception, but when you throw this many more passes, I kind of expect that to happen, and he also went up 5% on completion percentage. Our main running back, Kendre Miller, had his first career 1,000-yard season in the NFL, finishing with 1,203 yards and 5 touchdowns, and he missed a handful of games. Puka Williams filled in pretty nicely, going for 486 yards and 5 touchdowns. Nick Samuel ran in for 3. Samaje Perine ran in for 1. Perine actually had a really good Super Bowl if you watch that video, but it was just, not enough, I guess. And then finally, Zach Ertz also ran in for 2 touchdowns because he lined up at fullback a couple times. Now, I would like to remind you that Curtis Samuel got injured on his very first reception this season and then did not play another game until week 8. And he still finished with the most receiving yards on the team with 1,100. He also got 4 touchdowns, but Jared Bartow, our rookie 5th round pick from last season, goes for over 1,000 yards and 11 touchdowns, getting the same amount of receptions as Curtis Samuel. Braden Willis gets 101 receptions for over 1,000 yards and 7 scores. Tyler Lockett, who we traded for right after the Curtis Samuel injury, goes for 700 yards and 9 touchdowns. A.T. Perry got 4. Jerry Brooks, the backup tight end, got 5. Kendre Miller caught 1. Zach Ertz caught 1, and I believe that is going to be it. If you want to see just how ridiculous Curtis Samuel was playing this season, he only played 671 downs as compared to Jared Bartow, who had over 1,000 downs played, and he still came up with the same amount of receptions for more yards. We'll have to see exactly how hard regression is going to hit him, though, going into, I believe, his 9th season in the NFL. Darnell Waters was one player I was really excited to draft. He was a really fast middle linebacker coming out of college, and he also ends up leading our team in tackles. I think generally in Madden, your middle linebacker does, but whatever. 134 tackles, 1.5 sacks. Did not get an interception this season, but Will Thomas, who was moved from corner to safety, also ends up with over 100 tackles. But leading our team in sacks is going to be Hassan Reddick. Khalil Mack is not showing on this list because he did retire, so we will go look at that here in a minute. But Obo Okoronkwo came away with 8.5. Perion Winfrey got 7.5. Rookie defensive tackle, our first round pick, Dimitri Thomas, got 4. Eddie Jackson came away with 2. Yannick Ngakoue got 2. We already saw Darnell Waters. Malachi Bullocks, a backup outside linebacker, got 1.5. And then Colt Clinton, Michael Davis, and John Marion all got 1. And then Will Thomas and Jawan Hurts both have half of 1. Leading the team in interceptions, we really need to improve that number. Michael Davis got 2. Jawan Hurts got 2. And then John Marion got 1. Will Thomas got 1. Avonte Maddox and Devon Woodbury also came away with just 1. Now, who forced the most fumbles? That would be Colt Clinton. And who recovered the most? That would be Hassan Reddick and Darnell Waters. Now, since Khalil Mack did retire, we have to come over here to the legacy leaderboard to see his stats for the season. He's still going to show up in a Bison uniform for right now, but he ends the season with 11 total sacks, which is just as good as his season before that in Los Angeles. And I think the only seasons to beat that are going to be 2018 in Chicago. He got 12. He tied that in 2016 in Vegas, and then his second year he got 15. So he was still playing pretty well, but I guess just decided it was time to hang him up. Now, during the last offseason, we changed out our kicker. Harrison Butker came in and went 29 of 33 for 87% with a long of 57. I was pretty okay with how he played most of the year. And then punting, Michael Turk punted the ball 52 times. We'll get to compare that to the rest of the league here in just a moment. Quarterback Nick Samuel did end up leading the league in passing yards with almost 5,000. The most touchdowns is a tie between Samuel and Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, Samuel threw 11 interceptions. The most interceptions goes to Steven Stern, a quarterback in Washington. I want to see who threw the least amount of interceptions and actually had a decent amount of attempts. It looks like Jalen Hurts, who went 301 for 442, 21 touchdowns, but never threw a single interception this season. That's a little bit ridiculous, Madden. I'm an Eagles fan, and that's a little bit ridiculous. Another stat I always enjoy looking at is seeing who was the most accurate quarterback in the league that actually threw a decent amount of passes. It is a three-way tie between Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Dak Prescott, who all completed 72%. I also wanted to come back and look at this. Nick Samuel completed the most passes in the league this year, beating Dak Prescott by 18, but he also threw by far the most pass attempts with 628. However, rushing for the most attempts this season is going to go to Derrick Henry, who had 332 carries. The most yards goes to Saquon Barkley with 1,600. Christian McCaffrey also got over 1,600 yards, but the most touchdowns goes to Elijah Mitchell in Buffalo, who ran for 18 of them. And then who led the league in fumbles? That is also going to be Elijah Mitchell, who only fumbled the ball 4 times, but somehow managed to lead the league. And it looks like Josh Allen is second, so that's not good for Bills fans there. But who had the highest amount of rushing yards per attempt that actually had a solid amount of rushes here? May have to scroll down this list quite a bit, and we are finally there. It's going to be Jonathan Taylor, if I can talk, 5.7 yards a carry. The most receptions this season goes to Brandon Cooks, who got 112, Justin Jefferson with 105, Devontae Adams got 102, Jaden Reed in Green Bay got 102, and then Braden Willis with 101. The most yards, though, goes to Jamar Chase on 98 catches. I really think, had we had Curtis Samuel the whole year, he would probably be leading this category. We'll check average per game here in a minute, but the most touchdowns goes to Devontae Adams, who caught 15, and then average per game, by far, it's Curtis Samuel with 94 yards a game. I don't know what the math is on that. Let me do that real fast. Had he managed to play every game and keep that pace up throughout the entire year, he would have ended with 1,598 yards. So yeah, he would have been the leading receiver by far. Unfortunately, injuries did slow him down this season. But now we can look at some defensive stats. And Deion Henley in Los Angeles led the league in tackles with 156. Darnell Waters ends up in second there. Tackles for loss goes to Aaron Donald with 22, and sacks goes to TJ Watt with 21.5. Myles Garrett ended up with 19.5, and then interceptions, Tre'Davious White came away with 7, and just because I can, who had the most pass deflections? Leighton Vander Esch. The most forced fumbles goes to Fred Warner and Derwin James, and the most fumble recoveries goes to Derwin James. I don't know why I felt the need to look at those stats. Harrison Butker made the most field goals this season with 29. Second place is 21 with Kaimi Fairbairn. I think I said his name right. And also for the most attempts, it's going to be Harrison Butker. But the most accurate kicker this year is Cameron Dicker, the kicker from Texas. As an Oklahoma fan, I always love to see his name show up every once in a while. And I believe for the first time in this series, our punter did not attempt the most punts on the season. He's actually pretty far down the list with 52. Seems to be about the league average. Presley Harvin III in Washington kicked the most punts with 72 attempts. Now it is time for the yearly awards, and we start with Coach of the Year, which is a list we don't even make. Mike McCarthy takes home the award. The league MVP goes to Patrick Mahomes, but we do have a player on this list. Nick Samuel comes in 4th place in that voting. Now looking at the AFC awards, Patrick Mahomes wins Offensive Player of the Year. Defensive Player of the Year goes to TJ Watt. Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to Cincinnati. Defensive Rookie of the Year goes to Tennessee. The best quarterback is Mahomes. The best running back is Jonathan Taylor. Best wide receiver is Devontae Adams. Best offensive line is going to be Trey Smith with Kansas City. Best D-line is Myles Garrett. Best linebacker is TJ Watt. Best defensive back is Tre'Davious White, and then the best kicker goes to Cameron Dicker. Now for the NFC awards. It looks like Jalen Hurts is going to take home Offensive Player of the Year. Nick Samuel came in 4th place for that as well. Defensive Player of the Year goes to Aiden Hutchinson, and we do get someone on this list. Hassan Reddick shows up here. He got 9th in this voting. Offensive Rookie of the Year does go to Jared Bartow. No one else on our team made that list. Defensive Rookie of the Year goes to Dallas. We have several people on this list here, though. Juwan Hurts, Darnell Waters, Demetri Thomas, and John Marion all made the list, but none of them take home the award. Best quarterback goes to Jalen Hurts. Nick Samuel finishes 2nd. Best running back goes to Christian McCaffrey. It looks like Kendre Miller came in 9th on that one. Best wide receiver goes to Jaden Reed. We do get Jared Bartow on this list at number 5. Best offensive line goes to Chris Lindstrom in Atlanta. We get a few linemen here, though. I believe that's actually one of our backups. But then Brad Nelson, who's also one of our backups. I don't know why our backups are on this list. Jeffrey Fleming's also here, and then Robert Hunt. Best D-line goes to Aiden Hutchinson. Do we get anyone on this list? We do get Hassan Reddick here at 4. Best linebacker goes to Brian Burns in Carolina, and we don't get anyone on this list. The best defensive back goes to Jair Brown. I probably butchered your name. No one on our team made that list. Best kicker goes to Jake Elliott, who is a Dallas Cowboy. That makes me want to absolutely vomit, but Harrison Butker does come in 6th on this list. Now it is time to jump into the main part of this episode, and that is going to be getting into the offseason. Here is your season recap. I am not shocked at all that Mahomes won Super Bowl MVP. The only person I think could have probably gotten it from him was Travis Kelce, who absolutely murdered us. Apparently, before we really get into anything, we had an upgrade for middle linebacker Darnell Waters, who gets +1 to man coverage, pursuit, and 2 to zone coverage. And after doing that upgrade, it looks like Darnell Waters is now a superstar depth trait. He definitely wasn't one before the Super Bowl, and it's apparently because he won Defensive Player of the Week. Well, you'll love to see that, I guess. We do have a couple retirements. The first one you already knew about in defensive end Khalil Mack, but Derek Carr has also decided to retire. But now let's go through the whole list, and there is a pretty big name here. Derrick Henry has retired after only 10 seasons in the league. He just had the most carries of anyone in the league, and now he's retiring. Taylor Lewan has also retired. Cameron Hayward, we already knew about Derek Carr. Stephon Gilmore, Trent Brown, Levante David, David Bakhtiari, Teddy Bridgewater, Brandon Sheriff, Matt Filer, I probably said your name wrong, Bobby Wagner, Andrew Norwell, Tyron Smith. Travis Kelce does retire after winning the Super Bowl. Corey Linsley has retired. Michael Burton, Chris Boswell, Ryan Jensen. Let's see, any other big names? Cody Whitehair has retired after only 10 seasons. Gabe Jackson after 12 seasons. Patrick Peterson finally retires after 15. I believe the Jets still had Aaron Rodgers. Has he not retired yet? That is absolutely insane. I was fully expecting to see Aaron Rodgers on this list. I'm going to go check out the depth chart of the Jets here in just a minute. Well, looking at the season stats, Zach Wilson was definitely the starter as Rodgers only attempted 2 passes this year. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers is still in the league and now listed as the starting quarterback over Zach Wilson, so I guess we'll see if that sticks at some point in the next year. But now we can finally actually jump into the off-season part of this video, so let's go ahead and take a look and see what draft picks we have before we look at the mock draft. Remember last season, we did trade to get Minnesota's first-round pick for this year. That ended up as the number 11 pick. Then we obviously pick at 31 because we lost in the Super Bowl. We have Houston's second-round pick. We have our own second-round pick. Currently, we have no third-round pick, and then we have a 4, 5, 6, and 2 7s this year. I don't know if right now there's absolutely anybody that I've fallen in love with in this class, but let's see who we are projected to take at pick 11. That's going to be right tackle Gregory Johnson. Looking at his attributes, I don't really know about that. But what about pick number 31? What are we slated to take there? Left tackle Ron Mooney. Now that guy actually has better attributes than the other guy, I think. But obviously the draft is not going to be right now. We still have to go through all of free agency. We have $100 million to use in 17 players that are ready to negotiate. The first player up is Avonte Maddox, who I think just regressed pretty hardcore, down to a 79 overall with a morale boost up to an 83 right now. But he just lost 1 to press, lost an injury, lost acceleration, lost speed, 3 to zone coverage, 2 to tackle, another 1 to press, 1 to agility. I think we're going to go ahead and let Avonte Maddox walk into free agency. Now the next player up is a 33-year-old Tyler Lockett. We traded for him in the middle of the season because I really needed some more help at receiver, and it looks like he just lost a lot of attributes here. We are definitely going to let him walk into free agency. The next player up is Terrence Steele, and that's a pretty interesting decision. He's only 29 years old, 82 overall, but with that low of re-sign interest, we're going to go ahead and let him walk and see if we can't get a better player in free agency or the draft. Now, I just traded for Tyler Biadasz before the season started. I believe I made that trade in the preseason because our run game was not great the year before. He had pretty solid run blocking. I would like to try to bring him back. The issue is I don't really think he wants to come back here. He is apparently not a scheme fit. I will offer him a 1-year contract to see if he is willing to come in and maybe be a backup to a rookie or another guy. I don't think we're going to get him back though, and he will be testing free agency. Obo Okoronkwo has been on the team, I think, the entire series so far. He doesn't have a ton of interest in coming back here, but we'll offer him this 1-year contract and see if he will return as a depth piece, and that is exactly the offer he was hoping to get. I really thought about bringing back Yannick Ngakoue because he actually wants to come back, but he just lost 5 to his tackle, 5 to finesse move, 3 to awareness, and then his block shedding is not really that good. It's only a 65 whenever he doesn't have this morale boost, so I think we're going to let him hit free agency as well. Ronnie Perkins is another player that I'm pretty sure has been on the team the entire series because he is a former Oklahoma Sooner. I signed a lot of those at the start of the series, but he wants to come back, and I think we're going to offer him a pretty low, like 2-year contract. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and take this neutral offer here. 2 years, about $3.2 million a season. He's only 26 years old. He's a pretty solid depth player, so we'll go ahead and make that offer to him, and he will be coming back as well. Darnell Savage is another player that I've had to make a decision on here. 29 years old, 76 overall, still has 93 speed, base of a 79 play rec. The zone coverage is a 72. He has okay ratings for a backup. I'll see if I can get him on a 1-year deal, but I won't even guarantee that he'll make the roster through the preseason. And he wants a 2-year offer. I'm not willing to do that. Let's go ahead and bump that down to 1 year. He has a lot of interest in coming back, but he is going to be testing out free agency. I don't blame you, considering I only offered a 1-year contract, but I figured I'd at least try. And from here, everyone else will be going into free agency. Most of these guys that I didn't actually talk about, I kind of already decided they were probably going to hit free agency. Guys like Michael Davis, who's 31 years old. It sucks that he had to play so much in the Super Bowl as our #1 corner, but injuries will do that. We need to find some better depth there and get a little bit younger because we're going to lose Avonte Maddox and Michael Davis. Looking at the offense right now, we are pretty well set at quarterback. Nick Samuel, obviously a franchise quarterback, a massive, massive piece of this team. His backup is Geno Smith. I'm perfectly fine with that. Kendre Miller is up to an 85 overall, currently +5 to his overall due to that morale boost. We may look for a better running back, but I really like the way Kendre Miller played, especially late in the season. And then at wide receiver, Jared Bartow is an 82 overall once his morale goes back down to normal. We may look for a really solid wide receiver 1 in free agency. If I can get like a mid-90 overall or a high 90 overall, may go for that. Curtis Samuel is probably at risk to be traded this offseason. He's down to an 80 overall. I know he just had a ridiculous season, but A.T. Perry is also down here at a 78 overall. Anytime he's gotten on the field, it's been pretty solid. Aside from that, the offensive line, I think we're pretty well good at guard with Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. We definitely need to look at center and tackles. And at tight end, I guess we need to get a third string since we have 2 superstar depth traits here. I may also look to possibly trade Jerry Brooks at one point, just because as a superstar depth trait, he may actually get a bit back on a trade offer. Now, the defense was dead last in the amount of yards they let up. We were dead last in passing yards per game mainly. So I'd really like to get better in the secondary, but I think our secondary is actually kind of solid. We may look to add a couple pieces to that. I think we really just need to start getting more pressure. Perrion Winfrey and Dimitri Thomas, I think, are 2 really solid pieces, but we really need to get some pressure on the edge here. Hassan Reddick is still injured, so you're not seeing him at the top of the depth chart. Now it is time to actually get into free agency, so let's see who is here at the top of this free agent class. We have Jalen Ramsey at the top of the class, Joel Bitonio, Ronnie Stanley, Jalen Phillips, Tommy Townsend, Taylor Moton, Ryan Stonehouse. We have a couple really nice offensive linemen, a couple really solid corners. We're probably not going to go for Evan Ingram. We do have Darius Slay, who's 35 years old. Probably not going to go for that player. Oh, even better at quarterback, Aaron Rodgers is a free agent. I could bring in Aaron Rodgers to be our backup if I wasn't so comfortable with Geno Smith being the backup. He is 1 overall point better than Davis Mills right now. Probably not going to be that great of a quarterback. Unfortunately, there are not any #1 receivers in free agency this year. Devin Duvernay is kind of tempting because of his speed rating. Is he the fastest available? No, that would be Tyquan Thornton. But looks like Danny Gray has 95 speed. He's interested. Duvernay is actually interested in coming here. 89 catching, 87 catching traffic. And his route running is okay. He could be a really good slot player with 94 speed. I think he'd be the fastest receiver on the team. I have thrown a lot of money around in this free agency. We started with around 90 million. We're down to 20.9. We've only offered 4 contracts here. They're going to be to Jalen Ramsey, Ronnie Stanley, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Devin Duvernay. I think these guys can really all help our team. So let's jump to the next stage and see if we land any of them. The only one I'm really worried about not getting is Jalen Ramsey. And we land him anyway. So we get Ramsey, Ronnie Stanley, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Devin Duvernay. Once again, don't know if Duvernay is even going to be able to make the roster right now, but I think he adds a lot to this offense if he can make it and use his speed wisely. We will see what ends up happening with the rest of the offseason here. Obviously, I'm going to go back into free agency and see if there's anyone we can really add to really help us. But on defense, I think adding a guy like Jalen Ramsey is going to make a world of difference in our secondary. After looking through the rest of the free agents, I think it's going to be better to build the rest of this team through the NFL draft. We are now at the final stage before the NFL draft. We have free agency recap, we have private workouts, and we have the final mock draft. As of right now, it looks like Justin Kidd is still set to go number 1, but all the way down here at 11, we are expected to take right tackle Frank Vernon. And then all the way down here at 31, we are expected to take left tackle Jack Bryan. And looking at the top of the class here, there isn't really a ton of guys that I would be interested in. Obviously, the top 3 players right now are listed as quarterbacks. Not really anything we need. Justin Kidd is down here, projected to be the number 1 overall pick. We have another quarterback. So 4 of the top 5 players in this class are quarterbacks. Then you also have Quincy Quinn, Brandon Allen. There are a lot of good quarterbacks in this class, apparently. I'm not even going to be able to guarantee that we end up making that pick at 11. We may trade up, we may trade down. As of right now, I don't think there's anyone that I'm dead set on drafting, but let's go ahead and do these private workouts. Now, some of you are probably going to disagree with the way I've used these 3 workouts, but these are the 3 players I'm going to scout. Defensive back Reggie Bowe, because I think he could be incredibly good. We don't have a center on the roster, so we're going to scout Luke Fleck from Florida. And then there is a running back late in the draft that I really want to know about. Looking at his juke, it's a B to D, so if it's a B or a C, that'd be amazing. But it's Khalil Briggs out of Iowa, who is also a scheme fit, so those are going to be the 3 players that we use it on. I'm just curious if Green Bay will actually take this trade. We are offering Curtis Samuel for a 2nd round pick in this draft. They are not going to take that, but we should have no problem actually ending up with a 3rd round pick in this draft, and Curtis Samuel is now a member of the Packers. One of the reasons I did that is because Curtis Samuel is now going to be a wide receiver 1 over in Green Bay, and Jaden Reed's coming off a really good season with their star quarterback Eli Melton, who is going into his 2nd year. It should be a fun offense for him to be in. Looking at the free agency recap though, let's go over some of the top players. Obviously, we got Jalen Ramsey. Joel Bitonio is headed to New England. We also got Ronnie Stanley. Jalen Phillips is now a Cardinal. Taylor Moton is now a Jaguar. Brandon Smith is now a Steeler, and Teron Johnson is now a Raider. That's really it for all of the top players, I would say. Except for, I guess, Darius Slay is now a Titan. We're now officially at the NFL draft, and with the number 1 pick, the Arizona Cardinals are going to select, I assume that outside linebacker it is Justin Kidd out of LSU. With the number 2 pick, New England is going to take quarterback Bradley Porter out of Maryland, which should mean the Jets are going to take their quarterback, I believe his name was Brandon Allen, out of Pittsburgh. Now, with the 4th pick, the Bears are going to select a right tackle in Frank Vernon. I believe in one of the mock drafts he was expected to fall to us. Obviously not the case anymore. At pick 5, Washington takes an outside linebacker. At pick 6, Seattle is going to take Peyton Warner, a quarterback out of Auburn. At pick 7, the Dolphins are going to take Clint Booth, an outside linebacker out of Oregon State. At pick number 8, the Falcons are taking left tackle Trent Hightower out of San Diego State. And then at pick 9, the Packers are taking right guard Eddie Brooks. And finally, right before us, at pick number 10, the Denver Broncos are going to take wide receiver Nick Winslow out of Wisconsin. Now, there are some pretty interesting trade offers here, but I don't think I'm going to take any of them because of what I found out. And what I found out is that defensive back Reggie Bowe is a top 5 talent in this class. A catching, A man coverage, B press, B zone. We need a guy to play as a number 3 corner in the slot. He'll get to learn for a year behind Jalen Ramsey before he is forced to be the number 2 corner, because Juwan Hurts right now is our number 2 corner. He is a corner we drafted last year. This guy has great speed. How tall is he? He is 6'2". He does have C awareness, which concerns me a little bit in D play rec, but I think he's going to be a really good player. Now, he may not have a hidden depth trait because of that C awareness, but defensive back Reggie Bowe, welcome to Oklahoma City with your hidden depth trait and 94 speed. I think I'm going to be pretty happy with that pick. So let's go ahead and jump to our next user pick and see what our options are at pick number 31. The very first thing I notice is that 2 of the quarterbacks that were projected in the top 5 are still here at the end of the first round. Probably not a good sign for y'all. I think that mock draft was going to be correct, because at pick 31, Jack Bryan looks to be a pretty solid prospect. Obviously, we signed Ronnie Stanley. We have a left tackle, but we do not have a right tackle. And this guy comes in with A awareness, A impact, A pass block, B run block with a solid strength rating. Jack Bryan, welcome to Oklahoma City with your hidden depth trait as well. In the second round, we do have the Texans pick here at pick number 12, but I think I'm going to trade that to Tampa Bay. We pick up a 2nd, a 3rd, and a 5th this year, and a 7th next year. And now with that pick, we fall back to 28 here in the second round. We're going to take center Luke Fleck out of Florida with A awareness, A impact block, B pass block, and B run block, and Fleck will also be a hidden depth trait for us. Here at the end of the second round, we're going to take this trade with the Tennessee Titans, and we're going to trade out of the second round this year. We pick up a second round pick for next season and a fourth and a seventh for this season. Now in the third round with the 9th pick, I know this looks like a pretty risky draft move. We're going to take wide receiver Adonis Pleasance out of Washington State. 5'9", 191 pounds, he's 23 years old, A catching traffic and A catching, but he has ridiculous speed, and then his ball carrier vision is A to B and his juke move is A to B. I think this guy might be able to move over to running back or play receiver and running back a bit. So we're going to go ahead and take Adonis Pleasance, and he will have a normal depth trait, which does suck, but hopefully we can use him a lot and get him up to a star. Now at the end of the third round with pick 28, we're going to take center Aaron St. Louis out of Washington. I understand I already took one center, but we only have one right guard on the roster. We need a backup center anyway, so Aaron St. Louis out of Washington should do the trick, and he will come in with a normal depth trait. At this stage in the draft, we were at the end of the fourth round with pick 27. So in that situation, I really just try to take the best player that I think is on the board, and I think that's outside linebacker Danny Knox out of Oklahoma State. With B pursuit, B tackle, he has good speed, we see he has A to C awareness, B play rec. Danny Knox, welcome to Oklahoma City, and he will have a normal depth trait. And now just a few picks later, at pick 31 here in the fourth round, I'm going to take the risk on wide receiver Franklin Archibald. He was projected in rounds 3 to 4. You can see he has F deep route, but he has B catching, B release, C catching traffic. He can't really run a route to save his life. He's got D medium route as well, and I think D short route, but B spectacular catch along with that. He's decently fast. It says his speed is solid. We're going to go ahead and take him. We took Jared Bartow in the 5th round last year, and it ended up really good for us. We're going to go ahead and risk that again. Franklin Archibald, welcome to Oklahoma City with a normal depth trait. Now in the 5th round, we're going to take tight end Max Griffin here at pick number 28 out of Ohio State. B catching traffic, B catching, B deep route. Run blocking's not the best here, but he does have great speed, ran a 4.61 and a 4.6. So Max Griffin, welcome to Oklahoma City, who will also have a normal depth trait. Now just a few picks later here at pick 31 in the 5th round, we're going to take free safety Robbie Jackson. I am having a very difficult time finding anyone to draft in this class. I feel like the back end of this class is not very strong, but Robbie Jackson will be a normal depth trait and probably a solid backup safety eventually. We are now in the 6th round, which means I can just start drafting really whatever I want, and I think Ben Roberts might be a pretty solid lineman. C awareness, A impact block, B run block. It says his strength is good, he has elite speed. Don't know why that's necessary for a lineman, but A impact block. Ben Roberts, welcome to Oklahoma City with your normal depth trait, probably just a depth player. You know what, screw it, we're in the 7th round here. We're going to take punter Barry Pugh out of Penn State. Turk has been very good for us as a punter, but this guy has A kick accuracy, A awareness, and his kick power is listed as elite, so we're going to go ahead and draft punter Barry Pugh, who will have a hidden depth trait, shockingly enough, with 99 kick power. Now just a handful of picks later, we have pick 27 in the 7th round. We're going to take this defensive tackle Mateo Felez out of West Virginia, and he will come in with a normal depth trait. Not really shocked about that. And with our final pick in the draft at pick 31 here in the 7th round, this guy's probably not going to be very good, but we're going to take outside linebacker Barry McMahon out of Michigan. Really all we know is that he has A zone coverage and that he has elite speed. So Barry McMahon, welcome to Oklahoma City, and he has a hidden depth trait. I definitely did not see that one coming. Yeah, I definitely did not expect the final pick I made just because the guy has A zone coverage to end up with a hidden depth trait, but let's go ahead and get this draft over with. Defensive back Reggie Bowe comes in as a 77 overall. I am perfectly fine with that at the number 11 pick. 94 speed, 82 man coverage, 76 zone. Can I see his play rec here? It is apparently a 68, so not great, but he will probably just get to play as our slot corner / our number 3 corner for most of his rookie season. The left tackle, Jack Bryan, that we took at the end of the 1st round, is a 73 overall, but we're going to go ahead and go in here right now and move him over to right tackle. That way the game knows exactly where to put him, so we'll go ahead and save that. He should stay the same. And he does. He remains a 73 overall, 86 strength, 73 run block, 81 pass block. His run block power and finesse isn't great, but he is just a rookie. The center we took in Luke Fleck comes in as a 72 overall with a hidden depth trait with 88 strength, 73 run block, 76 pass block. I think he's probably going to be the starter, but we'll see what the other centers we ended up taking are overall wise. Now, I probably reached just a bit taking Adonis Pleasance in the 3rd round. He was projected to go on day 3. but is a 75 overall. The normal depth chart does really suck, but at least we have a high rated player. But I want to see what his rating is at running back. He's currently a 75 overall receiver, which I think is pretty solid for a rookie. But if you move him over to running back, he becomes an 80 overall receiving back. We're probably going to keep him there, actually, so I'm going to need to change that number. Let's go ahead and make that a lower number for right now. These are not guaranteed to be their numbers, just what I'm changing it to right now. With the rest of the class, we got Aaron St. Louis, a 72 overall center. We took a 66 overall outside linebacker, a 67 overall receiver, a 67 tight end, a 67 free safety, a 65 overall center, but the punter we took is a 79 overall. That is incredible. Then a 63 overall defensive tackle and a 63 overall outside linebacker, but that one at least came with a hidden dev trait. Looking around the rest of our division, it looks like the Falcons had a pretty solid draft. They took a 74 overall left tackle, got a 72 overall defensive end, a 71 middle linebacker, and a 70 overall corner in the 4th round. The Panthers ended up drafting 3 pretty solid receivers. They got a 74 overall outside linebacker in the 1st round, a 74 receiver in the 2nd, a 70 overall receiver in the 4th, and then a 71 overall receiver in the 6th round in Marquise Harrison. Now, finally, the team that ended up with the number 1 seed last year, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they took a 73 overall defensive end, a 72 overall defensive end, and then just a few 60 overall players. Well, I don't know how much I can really count this, but we end up with 3 of the 4 highest rated players in the class because Adonis Pleasance goes to an 80 overall running back, Barry Pugh's a 79 overall punter, then we have a 77 overall corner, and then Reggie Vo is also a 77 overall corner. The Bears got theirs in the 4th round though. But that is going to wrap up this video. In the next video, we will go ahead and take on the entire preseason. I will do training camp off screen, and obviously I'll probably sign some players to the team, and I'll go over that in the next episode.